with the everything going on and the internet explosion and digital media is making everything more accessible, and it's like rocket fuel to create creative people. uh, Everyone can shine and everyone can be unique if you have talent. It's becoming more of a meritocracy, more of a pure democracy. And the baby boomers out there and the narcissists are going to uh, lash out, either violently or with other ways, more subtle ways, but also as destructive, equally as destructive. In the past year and a half, I've been assaulted multiple times. I've been living in sheer terror because I'm disabled and can't make money. So my family took away my place to live. The first time I was rear-ended and the guy got out of the car, and I got out of the car and said, "Oh, I can't believe you hit me." The guy said, what do you call it? So get back in your car or I'll kick your ass." Then and then I was like, "You don't want to do that. I'm disabled and it'll look really bad." I didn't say the second part, but it was implied. You don't want to do that. You'll look really bad. And then he just like jumped me anyway. It was really bad. He was rubbing my face on the pavement and gravel and everything. And since I had so much PTSD from being falsely accused and arrested the first time that my father instigated behind my back to my, sabotaging my marriage, doing the same thing. So, what we're going to talk about now is what's been going on over the last year. I just had to create a thumbnail first. This is really all over money. My parents are fighting over money again. My father is siphoning extraordinary amounts of extra money to Rachel, and my mom caught him doing it, so she was really pissed, and I was grateful for the money I got, but she told everybody what they got, which just like was, especially because we all have our needs, but he made a financial commitment on top of it, so violating the financial commitment to show favoritism is unacceptable. We're talking about a disparity of 60 grand to 30 grand to 3 grand. Now, magnify that times 50 years. My mom would get spun up by either my sisters or my dad whenever she would leave the house and come home and be completely out of control and sometimes physically abusive, but definitely emotionally abusive. And I had been in therapy for years, and I was like, "I'm not having any of this. You need to stay away from me." And I put up a rug to say, "You're not allowed on this side of the rug." I couldn't make it any more clear. Like, I don't want to be a part of any of that anymore. So 2 birthdays ago, she came back from Rachel's, and she was yelling at me so much. She broken into the room that I was in and had me like in a literal corner, and had been yelling at me to the point where I was crying as an adult, like sobbing and in a ball. Like, actually, I kind of doubled over. I actually thought I was having a stroke or something. And, and then she just stopped, or no, she didn't stop. She continued to yell at my, like, corpse. It was like I'm on the ground, horizontal, and she's still going until she satiated her lust for anger and moved on. I called my father because I didn't have anyone else to call because she got us kicked out of therapy because she had another meltdown that the shrink said, I don't want to be, or yeah, basically, I don't want to be around this anymore. She said, this is out of control. No, she said, no one wants to be around this. Quote. So we had to stop going to counseling. About that time was about I went into the hospital for kidney stones. I was in so much pain. I was crying out. Actually cried to her. I'm on the toilet like naked, and I cried to her, and she comes in and she's like, what's going on? I was like, call 911. I need an ambulance. This is not the time for 411. But it's like nothing was happening. I was like, first of all, get out of the bathroom because I'm naked. Second of all, I just said, call 911 and an ambulance. What's so difficult about that? I go to the hospital in an ambulance. I'm in the hospital, like, writhing in pain. They're doing tests. I'm like, man, oh my God. She looks at me, writhing in pain. She goes, you'll do anything to get your hands on drugs, won't you? Burned in my mind. From that moment on, I knew what my mom was. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. The doctor looked at me, looked at her, walked out, and was like, I'll give you guys a minute. I immediately confronted it, and she's like, I didn't say that. I'm like, what the I was like, seriously? I was like, and then I was still so upset. I went out. I mean, like, my hair's on fire because I was like, okay, now I know where these things are coming from out of left field. Why people are accusing me all my life of faking it and doing this. I catch her all the time. Like, she used to do it when I was young, but she stopped later on, like, for a brief period. But now, someone entered her life and she started again. So, anyway, so then things really get bad when she says, oh, the 3rd Street incident. I'm on 3rd Street, the lanes merge, and I guess the guy behind me didn't like that I have a better car than him, and he rear-ended me and then drove me through traffic into the parking lot. I got out of the car and said, I can't believe you just hit me, right? And he said, get back in your car or I'll kick your ass. And I was like, you don't want to do that. I was like, I'm disabled. I have radial palsy in my arm, and I can't defend myself. You look like a monster. He didn't care. He just, kicked my ass from one side of the parking lot to the other. When he was grinding my face on the pavement, you can still see there's discoloration from the attack. From that discoloration, he when he was doing that, I say, dude, get off me. And I think that's when he was like, this guy's not going to fight. I was like, yeah, what else are you going to do? I was like, kill me? So he gets up and tries to leave. A security guard stopped him, thankfully, and they called police. The police were there immediately. But since I have PTSD from New Jersey and get my butt kicked because my dad is a dickhead and telling people to call the cops on me, I gotta take a break there because the PTSD is still pretty intense. At that point, also I had began to contemplate, like, okay, now my mother is saying nag my father to death for the money, and I'm like, no, I want to call Barry and see if we could sue him for the money. But then I was like, now I have to call. I was like, so okay. Then I decided, all right, let me ask Barry about this. and I can ask him about the other thing. But when I called him, I forgot about the other thing because this was so intense. Because when I get home, so because of the PTSD, they asked me, you know, if I wanted to press charges, and I was like, I feel like I have to because this guy's really untethered, and but I had compassion because I was like, I have a crazy shit bag at home too. I was like, I don't want to make things worse for the guy than he needs to, but he definitely needs to pay his part of the damages, right? Because he's trying to escape the scene of the crime. It's like 3 felonies right there, hit and run, uh, no insurance, and what was the other one? What, hate crime or yeah, something like that. Road rage. Yeah. So I get home and I'm like, so yeah, I have to press charges. And they're like, to do that, you get a ticket, and he gets a ticket because we need to make sure you show up in court. The only reason you're getting this ticket is to make sure you show up in court because the judge gets pissed when you don't show up in court. So it's like, okay, I'll do it. So with my PTSD fully on fire, I swallowed hard and I said, yeah, I'm going to press charges. I get home and the crazy shitbag is yelling and looking at me going, and I just close the door and, go to sleep and sleep and sleep. And then, she started to gossip behind my back, and I guess I asked people for advice, and since all they do is talk shit about me and lie, they didn't tell the truth about the events. They just told crazy lies about the event. Okay? So my mother and other people heard lies before they heard me tell the truth. Because the rest of the 4 people in my immediate family, and we can go out from there, are pathological liars. I mean, historically, for the whole life. Anybody who knew him 20 years ago and couldn't figure something out, now you know. It really was them. They're just really good at hiding it, and I wasn't. I don't want to live that kind of life. I don't have time for it. There's so much I want to do in this life that I have a hard time going to sleep at night. It is a really great time to be alive. And that's the rub too, is that it triggers my father's narcissism because he's feeling like death is very, very close. And he looks at me like, oh, he still looks like a kid. And, he actually used the words, I need to kick him in the ass. Imagine that. I've been disabled for 10 years, and this guy wants to kick me in the ass. I'm living in my mother's house, and this guy wants to kick me in the ass because I have a friend who has different genitalia than me. So after I had gone through that, I had told my mother that exact story, and she goes, oh my gosh. She does this thing every time she screws up. She says it exactly like this. Now I know. And I make fun of her, and she laughs. I'm like, it's not funny. Mom, it's not funny. I'm like, you keep screwing up, and I'm the one who has to pay the price, and I don't have any more, expenditure. Seriously. Every time I'm around these people, it's fucking drama. I've been on a campaign for the last 10 years to have zero drama in my life. Zero drama, okay? And that seems to be in direct opposition of what my father's agenda has been. I had, everyone out and my walls up, but unfortunately, I went in the hospital for the radial palsy, and someone let my mother know, and my parents both crashed my apartment and abducted me to take me out to Missouri. By the time my surgery had healed, I was already 2,000 miles away from my home. They said, trust us, we're going to pay all of your expenses. There's no need to worry. And my father, immediately reneged and left my mother holding the bag. And she, in turn, just bled me dry, too. I don't know if I said this part before, but my mother actually said the words, "When you say it like that, I sound like a monster." And I said, "Mom, you just called yourself a monster. Those were your words, not mine, okay? So I don't want to have to go through this again." Because every month she would say, "Oh, you're an opioid addict." And I'm like, "Mom, stop with the Fox News. You have to, not do this kind of stuff. You've been doing it since the 80s with the AIDS epidemic and cocaine and BS like that when I was in middle school, 6th grade, okay?" Every time I branch out to excel, there's this mysterious campaign to get and keep me in trouble. I wonder why. Also, my father's constantly not paying my bills. He needs a judge or attorneys to compel him to pay his bills. He's the definition of a deadbeat dad. I mean, he went years and years without it. I bet if you look back, you could probably find a payment or two that wasn't paid on time, and maybe if you apply today's laws to him, he should be in jail right now. Okay? So, my mom started telling people when I was assaulted, she started telling people that I was starting fights and getting in trouble because of an opioid addiction she's always thought I had since I was like 5. So this November comes along, and I have a friend that wanted to come stay with me for a little while, who was happens to be a beautiful young lady, and that made my father intensely jealous because he was not successful with the ladies, and he views it as like, hey, this guy's still pulling when he's got no job for 10 years and living with his mom. I can't make this guy a loser, and I've been trying for fucking a half century. My mom goes bananas spending money for Rachel, who's got 2 houses, 4 cars, 2 kids in college, 1 kid in getting an advanced degree, who are both able-bodied workers. And yeah, there is an empty house right now. And through all this drama, there's been an empty house sitting there. Also, I was talking about maybe going outside of the country with her to see her family, which he's like, "I'm not going to give you money if you're going to go on vacation." Meanwhile, he has so much money, he goes on like 3 vacations a year. The money I would have used to go, it wouldn't have been a vacation, it would have been something else, okay? And I told him that. I said, listen, we're talking about we're at a dawn of a new age where content creation makes money. Everyone needs to be a content creator now. Everyone. And again, because it's right in my mom and my wheelhouse, my father couldn't handle the fact that we could outshine him. He wanted to keep us beneath him. I didn't know any of this, so I blindly asked him for help with my mom, and I'm like, "Listen, Dad, I need help. Her behavior is so out of control. She got kicked out of counseling. I don't know what to do. Please, just tell her, cut this shit, and I'm not an opioid addict. Just keep reinforcing that, because it's like Fox News or something. She's brainwashed. I don't know where it's coming from." He was probably sitting at home laughing, going, "Ha ha ha, it's coming from me. And you think you call yourself a genius." Well, you shouldn't have done that, pal. Because I told you, I was being really nice. I told you, we were on the same team. and you don't there's no sniping in the foxhole, pal. You're really lucky you didn't get shipped to Vietnam when you failed out of LSU, because your platoon would have definitely shot your ass. So when my mom went back to Rachel's this November, it was different. Uh, she still went with the same agenda, but I went and I was like, listen, I'm gonna call my father the second she goes bananas. And I was actually out at the pound because there was a dog, adorable dog that was there and needed a rescue. But I guess they found another home for it, so I don't want to dangle any threads there. But anyway, she comes in and immediately starts screaming at me, or actually when I came back in, I open the door and I walk in and she starts screaming at me like I'm a kid, like, how did you leave my house? And I'm like, first of all, you live like white trash, and I cleaned up the place and made it look nice. Second, second of all, I told you for 30 years, one, you know, call me or text me before you come home and I would clean the house. Second of all, there is no excuse for this kind of display of behavior. The yelling and the screaming. And then on top of that, that day she crossed the line and committed physical violence and cracked me in the head with the picture frame of Doris Dodds, rest in peace. Uh, Leaving a big welt and a gash that the police officers took evidence, of. And and you're wondering why the police were there, because when I called my father when she was out of control, that dickhead actually said, "Call the police." So I separated. I was like, "Dad, don't say that because she's gonna end up going to jail." Because when I was in Delaware, she was harassing the staff and got kicked out of the apartment complex. So the Delaware State Trooper there said, "You gotta leave. We got several complaints for harassment here." And I was like, and I'm looking like, me. But I was like, actually, I talked to him and I was like, she's just here helping me out, and I'm very sorry for and uh, just give me a little time and I'll we'll finish up with her. And so yeah, so she was out, and I was picking up the pieces again, and that's when she crashed in with the when I had radio palsy. So then we're gonna flash forward back to this November, and that's when with the assault. So then it was one of those things where I was terrified because the police were coming. They were total PTSD. But since I called my dad back, and after I chastised them for saying call the police, I was like, Dad, if she calls the police, I won't have any faith in humanity anymore. So if you said, that was the dumbest thing you've ever said, he goes, oh, okay, I understand. But it didn't. He acted like he understood, but he kept doing the same thing behind my back. Uh, Meanwhile, my mom's down there going bananas again with the officer. The officer's like, "Lady, the body language really matters," and you know, uh, he had everything. So she is. That's the second time she should be on her knees thanking me, saying, "Oh, what a great son you are that you kept me out of jail twice, and especially after I called the police on you." And so that was a mistake. I should have let her get arrested, or I should have really pushed for her to get arrested that night for the crimes she committed. Uh, but there is again that boomer collusion where the narcissist and how the boomer personality got into all the wrong positions over the last 30 years that needs to be unwound. So between like November and March, it was just totally unholy. I mean, like I kept like saying like this is what we're focusing on, the good things, and she kept on with her narrative of, you know, we're doing things my way or the highway, and like the way she um you know, you have to have a reason to kick somebody out of the house now. You didn't like 50 years ago, I guess. You could just say, it's my house, get out, right? But now, if someone's living there, there's an expectation where you just don't kick them out for no reason, right? So she invented the reason. And I told her, and I told my father, well, first I told her, I said, I don't want you doing this because it's bad for my character. I said, first and second of all, it's not true. I was like, and month to month, I would show her like the extras. I was like, I would show Walter too. I would shake the bottle. I was like, here's this month. Do you want to look at them? And I would show him the pills. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take these to the pharmacy, turn them in. I was like, and so I'd sit there and get the new ones from mom. She would hand them. And every month, there, it was a fight and it was drama and she finger pointing. So I used to have to hide when my schedule was, because otherwise she would say like, whenever you run out, you get irritable. I'm like, I don't run out. I have extra. And she's like, you have extra. You're keeping them. I was like, so at that point, I knew. I was like, there's no way for me to win here. I was like, you need help. And she just dug in. And the last straw was she hid my phone when my attorney was trying to reach me to tell me when my court date was for when I got assaulted the year before. And I missed the court date, pissed off the judge, let the violent criminal go, and she got me and ended up getting me arrested because he got pissed off that I didn't show up. And I immediately posted out and said, I was the guy who pressed charges. Why are you arresting me? And they're like looking at it and they're like, oh, okay, you can go. And I was like, what the fuck? So I called my mom and like, again, I'm like reliving all my worst trauma. And I call her, and what does she do? She like abuses me up one side, down the other for an hour. And I'm like, oh my God. So all this stuff that I've been going on right now, it was like that for me for 4 years. Okay. So I'm just coming around now to being calm again. But being around my mother was an absolute nightmare because she was dealing with my nightmare father. And I don't know which one of them needs to pay for this or both of them, but this is the worst thing. Yeah, they said there should definitely be some sort of arrangement made.